Hello, algebra students. Mr. Lawrence here, and this is the last of the winter break videos. We're going to go over an application problem, two of them actually, volume problems. An important skill to have, reasoning. All right, so first thing I do when I go to set this problem up is I look at the picture. I'm given a rectangular prism. I'm given three of its measurements. Two of the measurements have variables in them, though. So I don't actually know how long or how wide or how tall. I only know this one dimension here, which is 3 centimeters. I do, however, know that the volume is 765 cubic centimeters. Okay. Well, I know to get the volume of a prism, I'm going to do the area of the base times how tall it is. So that would be the same as length times width times height. So I'm going to do 3 times 3x plus 5 times 4x minus 1, and that should equal the volume, 765. Now, first thing you want to do, many of you want to get this equal to 0, but this left-hand side is kind of complicated, so I'm going to try to simplify as much as possible. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to divide by 3 on both sides, because there's 3 factors here. 1, 2, 3. 3 factors. 3 numbers being multiplied. 3 numbers attached to each other by multiplication, right? And so I can undo one of them by dividing. But if I divide the left-hand side by 3, I also have to divide the right-hand side by 3. And I'll be left with a quantity of 3x plus 5 times the quantity of 4x minus 1. That's a double distribution problem, okay? 3 is going to go into 7 twice, into 16, 5. I think 255. I'm just going to check that because if I've made a mistake, that'll make this problem very difficult. 765 divided by 3. Yep, 255. Okay, so on the left-hand side now, I'm going to double distribute. Some of you are like, no, subtract 255. No, trust me, double distribute first. So I'm going to get 3x times the quantity of 4x minus 1 plus 5 times the quantity of 4x minus 1. That's going to equal 255. All right, so I get 12x squared minus 3x plus 20x minus 5 equals 255. And I'm really not done double distributing until I combine like terms. And I hope you see them there. 17x minus 5 equals 255. Now is when I want it equal to 0. Some of you start factoring over here on the left-hand side. You can't. It doesn't equal 0. The zero product property says if I have two numbers, say a and b, and they're being multiplied together, and the product equals 0, then either a equals 0 or b equals 0. Now, you could argue that both could be 0, but then that would force a to be equal to b, and we don't know that. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to get 2 factors, and they're going to be being multiplied together to get a product of 0. That'll force one of the factors to be 0, and that's how I will solve the equation. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 255 from this step, minus 255. And when I do that, I get 12x squared plus 17x minus 260. That's going to equal 0, right? Okay, now I'm looking for a GCF and I don't see one. So I'm going to go ABC, ABC. Easy as 12, 17, negative 260. All right, so 12 times 260, product of A and C, is 3,120. All right. Now I need 2 factors of that are going to subtract to get 17. I'm going to try my square root trick. I'm going to take the square root of 3,120, and I'm going to see if it works. Oops, something's wrong. Oh, I see. All right, hold on. All right, so the square root of that number is about 55 and 9/10, approximately. Okay, now I'm going to move half of b up from there. Well, that's plus 8.5. And so what's that going to take me to? Well, if I moved up 5, I'd be at 60.9, 60. It's about 64, closer to 65, isn't it? 55 and 9/10 plus 8.5. 64 and 4/10. So I'm getting 64 and 4/10. I'm wondering if 64 or 65 are factors of 30,120. I'm going to guess 65 is. I'm going to try 65. I'm going to divide 30,120 by 65, and I'm going to see what I get. So 3120 divided by 65, and I get 48. 48. Well, let me do 65 minus 48, and sure enough, they're 17 apart. Now, I know B was a little bit bigger, and I said, square root trick doesn't work when B is big, but the product of A and C was quite large, and so that allowed the trick to work a little bit better, okay, even though B was kind of big. So now I come here and I rewrite this. Okay, I've got a 12x squared. I've got a minus 260 equals 0. And I'm not going to write the 17x. I'm going to write a 65x and a negative 48x, right? I think I'm going to put the 65 with the 260. It's positive. And then I'll put the negative 48x with the 12x so that I could group them, and I saw a GCF real easy in this first quantity. I don't see one real easy in the second quantity. However, I can kind of cheat and make it work. So the GCF here looks like it's going to be a 12x. I'm going to factor out a 12x. And that's going to leave me with an x minus a 4. Now I'm betting that the GCF here is going to have to be 65. Why do I know that? Well, because this is a 1x. Hello, James. Yes, you may shred some papers.
Which one?
All right, the ones on top, yeah. So I'm going to factor out a 65. Now I'll just check, and I'll divide 260 by 65, and it comes out 4 times. You got to stop. It's too loud. Wait till I'm done, okay? Sorry, buddy. All right, so I'm going to factor out a 65, and I'm going to get an x, and it checked on the calculator, it goes in 4 times. And look at that. They match perfectly. Now I'll factor out an x minus 4 and be left with a 12x plus a 65. That's going to equal 0. Now I have to solve for x. In both cases, I have to say x minus 4 equals 0, solve for x, and I have to say 12x plus 65 equals 0, and solve for x. Now, the problem with this one is I'm going to subtract, and I'm going to get a negative answer. Now, I don't just throw it away because it's a negative. It's not wrong because it's negative. It's not a valid solution, 5 and 5 twelfths, because when I put a negative 5 in here, this dimension becomes negative, okay? So you have to be careful. If you had a dimension that would say 5 minus x, or 5 minus 1, it would come out to be a positive 4, right? In this case, putting a negative in for x here, oh, I'm sorry, I meant to say 5 minus 1x. I did mean to say that. If I put x as negative 1, 5 minus 1 times negative 1, order of operation is going to be 5 plus 1, because the negative 1 times a negative 1 is a positive 1. And see, I don't get a negative dimension. So it's not because x is negative that it's incorrect. It's because it produces a negative dimension. So please pay attention to that. So, I can't seem to get my board here to scroll. There we go. So I'm not going to report this as an answer. Now over here, I'm going to add 4 to both sides. I'm going to get x equals 4. All right, I am not done with the problem. Now I have to find the dimensions. And so I'm going to take this one here and go 4 times 4 minus 1. What are we in centimeters? And so that'll be 16 minus 1, which will give me 15 centimeters. I know by 3 centimeters because I was told that. And now I got to do this one. X is 4. I'm going to do 3 times 4 plus 5. And that's going to be 17 centimeters. And there you go. We found the dimensions of the rectangular prism. All right, going to do one more, and then we're going to call it quits on this video. Don't forget that on January 1st, the video for the start of the new year will be posted. Okay, so we're going to do 6 times 5x minus 4 times 2x plus 1, and that'll equal 180. I'm going to divide by 6, and we're going to get 5x minus 4 is 2x plus 1, and that should be 30. Okay, I'm going to double distribute on the left. Should be following these steps. You know, the first thing I did was write down the equation. Next thing I did, I divided by the whole number. Then I double distribute. And I believe I'm going to get a negative 8x and a positive 5x, negative 3x. And then minus 4. I didn't show all the steps there, but I expect you can do that. You should be able to double distribute by now. Now we're going to subtract 30. And so we have 10x squared minus 3x minus 34 equals 0. All right, I don't see a GCF in there. We're going to go A, B, C. Easy as 10, negative 3, negative 34. Multiply them together, A and C, and I get 340. Now B is only a negative 3, so I think my square root trick is probably going to work pretty well. 340, I'll take the square root of it, and I get about 18 4/10. I'm going to move it up half of B. Well, that would be 1 1/2. 19. So I think I get 19 9/10, which is essentially 20. And 340 divided by 20 should be 17. And so there'll be a 17x and a 20x. I need it negative, the 20 is negative, and the 17 is positive. Oh, excuse me. All right, so I've got 10x squared minus 34 equals 0. And I think I want the 17x to go with 34, so I want the minus 20x to go there. And I like the way this one looks. All the numbers look friendly. I need a plus in between those. And I'm going to factor out a 10x here and be left with an x minus 2. And I'm going to factor out a 17 here and be left with an x minus 2. Did you hear me repeat myself? It's not because I'm getting old. All right, 10x plus 17. So I need two equations. X minus 2 equals 0, which means x will equal 2. And also 10x plus 17 equals 0. Therefore, 10x would equal negative 17, and x will equal negative 1. And so is 10. Oh, gosh, I guess I need a nap, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. All right. Now, again, I get this negative for x. I don't just throw it away. I come up here and look. If I put a negative 1 or a negative 2 in here, the 5 becomes negative. Negative 5 minus 4 becomes negative 9. Can't have a negative dimension. So I'm going to throw this one away. So x is 2, and now I figure out 5 times 2 minus 4. And then I figure out 2 times 2 plus 1. So 10 minus 4 is 6. 2 times 2 plus 1 is 5. And so the dimensions are 6 inches by 6 inches by 5 inches. And there you go. All right. Remember, you got to send me the next, your results for section 2 to be able to get the problems for section 3. But this is the video for section 3. Mr. Laurence signing off. Have a good night, everybody.